So a complete guide on how to set up your Altis Sigma. Oh man, I can't wait to show you guys this stuff. Oh, this is sweet. Let's just do this. All right. Oh, wow. Okay, I rode the bike. Wow. And okay, I really think welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Patrick from Rev Rides, and today we have the Altis Sigma. We're gonna unbox this, put it all together. This is gonna be very detailed, and if there's anything I notice along the way, I will tell you guys. Also, if you wanna win one of these bikes, make sure you keep watching and we'll give you more information later on in the video. And if you wanna order one of these, make sure you hop on over to revrides.com. All the information, specs, and everything like that will be on there. I'm not gonna give you any type of specs right now or any of that type of information. You've seen it on plenty of the other videos. Let's get into it. Something a lot of people don't talk about is how to get this box off. A few things you will need is either a flathead or a chisel, a hammer or a dead blow, a pair of pliers, and this metal is actually really sharp, so I suggest just grabbing some gloves just for doing this part. I'm gonna use the chisel, so I'll set the flathead aside. All right, so just go ahead and get up underneath here. You can usually just bend it, but I try and get it all the way up, and then I'll go back around with the pliers and bend these up straight. And I'll do that all the way around. Now, you may have to use the chisel, yep. Sometimes they just pop off. This is mainly why you want the gloves, is for this time. Wow. I always tend to look at things very closely. Preserve this box. I'm gonna take this bike out one side or the other, and then I can still have the box for future use. So interesting to see how different brands do different things. This is obviously a wheel. I'm gonna go and pull this off, pull the wrap off, and then put it on the new lift. I'm gonna go ahead and hold on to these bolts because you never know when you need them or if we will need them on this. Let's get the plastic off this, shall we? The last time I saw this bike in person, it was a pre-production for the pinch bolts. Have I ever shared this secret with you guys? If you just squeeze the head of a zip tie, you can actually loosen it. Just like that. And you're like, oh, well, that's dumb, just clip it. As long as it's squished back to where it was, it still works. See? Squeeze it, pull it out. No more wasting zip ties. We all need zip ties. I've unboxed enough bikes to know the secrets to doing things. If you wiggle it back and forth, you can actually just break free the actual mount that's holding it to the box. Oh man, I can't wait to show you guys this stuff. This is sweet. This is a lot easier with two people. We go under the swing arm to lift it up. I'm strong, but this is pretty heavy. So understand that zero companies are great at making sure bolts are secure. The great thing is they go ahead and bag this whole bike. This whole bike was wrapped in plastic. So any type of nuts and bolts that could vibrate off over the 6,000 miles from China to here on a cruise ship vibrating the whole time. So we'll figure out what these are for. All right, the first thing you want to do is take the battery out. Let me show you where the keys are. Now you can do it the way I showed you earlier by just pinching it and saving the zip ties if you don't have tons of them laying around. I do, so I'm not too worried about it. But if you like saving them, even though you snip them, because this can obviously be used, always just cut it on the opposite side of the head. So then you have a zip tie you can use later. You're gonna go ahead and open up the left side brake. Could end up being in the right side. and pull this little baggie off, and you find a little treat inside. Red key, black key, and your actual physical key. Now let's get the battery out. All right, so we're gonna take our key, go inside here, and turn it. And it's gonna go ahead and open this up. Your battery's already disconnected. You're gonna go ahead and loosen this. Twist it out of the way. You're gonna go ahead and remove your battery cable out of the way, off to the side. You wanna get a little bit of leverage because the battery is a little bit heavier. And it fits really snug. Look at that beautiful beefy connector. Look at the size of those 6-gauge. Get the charger out, that's your brown box. This charger is huge. This is a sticker, this is not. Quickly cover this, you can press the top, it'll show you your charge. We're very low on charge, so we're gonna go ahead and charge it. Your charging port is right here. All right, for filming purposes, I would like to not be charging this, but we do want to ride this at some point. A little bit later today, the little notch is gonna go on the very top. And we'll go ahead and plug this in. You will see it flashing red, showing it's charging. All right, while the battery's charging, let's get everything else off. I know some of you may ask, is this painted on? No, these are our decals. These can come off. You could remove these, no problem. Let's take this bag off. All right, so all the zip ties are disconnected. Let's go ahead and pull the front axle out. I already loosened it when it was in the box. And this is lefty loosey, righty tighty. I know that there's obviously other bikes out there that it's not like that. So make sure the pinch bolts are loose, and then we're gonna push this through with something soft. So I got this little flathead screwdriver that should fit through no problem. So if you did what I did, go ahead and remove the nails, and then you can go ahead and just pop this through. And it's greased, so the grease inside the wood kind of sucks. So that's why it's a little more difficult to get out. All right, let's move this out of the way and show you all your miscellaneous extra parts in those little foam containers that they put together for us. You obviously got your front fender, already took it out of its packaging, took the front wheel out of the box. Let's just do this. All right, over here, you'll see these miscellaneous bolts and nuts and washers. This nut with these washers is for the kickstand switch. Looks like it's supposed to be off because it obviously has to go through here, but they rattled and just came off of the actual kickstand switch. Not a big deal. And now these bolts and washer and nut, I'm not sure where they go to, but I have a feeling that these go to a switch and this goes to something else. Your front axle doesn't come in the box, it comes in the bike, but this is your display, your tool kit. It comes with these tools. You got your rear fender, your front number plate, your bar clamp with the 4 bolts, the 2 bolts that you took out of the top of your piece of wood. You are reusing those, so don't throw them away. You have your right side foot peg, your brake bracket, the spring for your kickstand, and the left side foot peg, kickstand, your 2 wheel spacers, 2 grommets. These grommets go to your display and hold your display in place. Your certificate of approval, which has your model number, the manufacturer date, information for yourself and to hold on to. You obviously have your owner's manual. This is really nice. It has all the information that you would need. It looks just like something you would get from Honda or Yamaha. This is a very nice thing because you can obviously toss it under your seat and keep it with you for the first week of ownership or however long. So we've gone over everything that comes in the boxes. Let's put all this stuff on the bike. Remember these? They were sitting in the bag of the bike, sitting down below. They're the fender, it's a fender bolt and washer. All right, so I went ahead and pulled the bolts out. You gotta make sure you put Loctite on these bolts because you just don't want them to disappear on you. It'll get really annoying really fast if they do. All right, and then you have your pins for your number plate. We're gonna go ahead and put one. Guys, one huge thing I'm happy about is the fact that these are CNC'd triple clamps. That is sick. This is a 10 millimeter. Not gonna lie, I honestly didn't like the headlight when I first saw it, but it's actually kind of sick. Don't go crazy on these bolts, you don't need to. Look at that, it's already turning into a bike. All right, let's go ahead and put the front wheel on. The wheel spacers are the same for each side. Go ahead and put those carefully. Grab our axle. Remember, fat side on this side. I'm gonna use the actual tools that they send to you. All right, we're gonna go ahead and put the nut in. Righty tighty, lefty loosey, just like normal, versus like an E-Ride is lefty tighty. Same with these, they don't have to go crazy. You're gonna go back and forth. We'll go back and use the torque wrench to torque all this stuff. Handlebars. All right, there are 3 pieces to the clamp and 4 bolts. Now this is gonna be a lot to juggle, so if you got a buddy or a friend or a family member that you can have kind of help you, you kind of gotta just put stuff in. The rise and sweep seems all right. I'm not gonna even get close to getting this in the right position. I'm just gonna kind of set these here and then start putting everything else on. I'm glad the throttle is on already, that's cool. You want a Phillips screwdriver to take out the screws out of this. Long screws in the back, remember, short screw in the front. Gonna get them snug for the time being. Put the brake on, which I'm very glad they switched to .4, which some brands are using .3. .3 and .4 do mix. .4 has a higher boiling point. This is a 4mm. There's like a little dot positioning on this, which is where they want you to put the slit on the brake, but everybody's a different size, so I wouldn't anticipate that. Something really cool about this display is these you can unscrew and you can pivot it to where the display would be in front here versus back here. I'm gonna try it just the traditional way with the display up top, but I may actually tuck this way so the display is kind of down here and out of the way. Go ahead and loosen all this. This is a 2.5mm, your smallest Allen that comes in the kit. I'm gonna place the grommets on first. And the same with this, you don't wanna get these super tight because you're gonna have to tilt this forward to get access to these screws to tighten them up. It actually uses a top nut instead of a stem lock like the other traditional E-Motos. This is more of a motorcycle than a bicycle. Now the wiring is super easy. Green to green, orange to orange, and then there's the one with the little red line, little gasket. There's a pin, right? And a notch. Make sure the pin goes into the notch. So for example, to make more sense to you guys, there's the little pin here, there's the notch here. It's like a notch, innie and an outie, male and female. If you go like this, you're already lined up in that, and then just carefully go in like that, and then you can just pop it in. I'm gonna go ahead and tuck this down here. And then you have this one that you're gonna go ahead and connect. Also, there's arrows on these that you can kind of you just put the arrows together like that. There's these 5mm bolts that are already in the bracket. Also, the bracket on this is way thicker than anything else. Like I said, motorcycle components. The horn is tucked up behind this as well, so you won't get a whole bunch of water and stuff like that in it. Now, you have these 2 grommets. They go right down on there. And press these in place. And this isn't detrimental to have Loctite on, but if you don't want to lose them, Loctite them. And we are almost a bike, boys. I'm gonna take this off the stand for many reasons, but mainly so I can get access to this. I'm impressed with the seat. The new foam in it is so sick. Definitely a lot more firm compared to what it was. Use your key to open this up. All right, so this is a 5mm. These are also shoulder bolts. It doesn't tighten down super tight on these, which is great. I love that they used black bolts. Little attention to detail on certain things. They could have just used standard stainless steel or some sort of silver coating. That's on there. For sure want to put Loctite on here. That was a lot. CNC foot pegs, pretty awesome. I love how these are made though. There's no reason for like a cross brace or anything like that because the frame is your cross brace. Give these a snug Loctite. So you're gonna latch it in and then you're gonna pull it down and out. You're gonna wanna make sure that you get it started. So you get one started, get it in there, snug that in place. Don't cross thread them. Remember these washers and this nut that I found? That's what this is for. There's a magnet in the kickstand. This needs to make contact when it's all the way out. So I'm gonna loosen this quite a bit. So you're gonna make sure you put your washer on. Make sure you have your nut adjusted all the way out. And then we're gonna go in a little bit. Kickstand up for now. You wanna make sure that the flat part of the nut is facing up towards the bracket so you can get it in there really well. So it'll slide through easy. Then I'm gonna put a little dab of Loctite on it. When I mean little, I mean little. I don't want this to get too hard to get taken off. I just want it to kind of hold itself in place. See where this lands. So we're gonna go ahead and push this in there. Make sure it does not make more than just a slight contact. I'm gonna go in just a little bit. And there we go. We're making full contact. It's barely actually touching it. It's just enough. Then we're gonna go ahead and move this into place. I'll roll this down really quick and I will tighten it on the opposite side so to not move this. So just double check. That should work. There's like a hair. It is a magnet, so it doesn't have to be making full contact. Too tight, you will literally break this. Once you start feeling tension, just make sure it has tension. Double check each side and you're good to go. Now I could almost probably put a piece of paper through there. You may have to align it again. I'll double check. So that's good to go. We're gonna take your bracket. There's 2 screws that are in there. Go ahead and remove them. I already put some Loctite on. All right, go ahead and hand thread these in. Do not cross thread them. Because if you cross thread this fork, you're gonna have nothing but issues. You can use power tools when you do stuff, but obviously you can see I don't go crazy and tighten them. Just make sure you snug these up. And then I already put Loctite on these because brake bolts are very common to get loose because the vibration, the heat. Now I just assumed that this would be in a good place. When you get any drag, loosen both these bolts, let them stay loose, grab your front brakes and squeeze them. It'll get it realigned. You could even have somebody hold it to get it a little bit snug, release it, and then tighten these up, and then you should be fine. Once you've checked, aligned it, made sure and snugged it all up, make sure when you ride it that you bed your brakes in. Now that the bike is together, make sure you're checking your rotor bolts. I would actually make sure that you see Loctite on the back side of these, and if you don't, go ahead and back them out one by one and put in Loctite. I noticed that this one was loose when I went to install it. So I went ahead and tightened them, but I'm gonna actually back them, each one of them out and put Loctite on them because you don't want rotor bolts backing out. That goes for these as well. Now these are all marked, which is awesome. So you can see if they've backed out or moved. I would go ahead and make sure they're snug. That's just a couple things, that and your sprocket bolts. Always just double check those. Those are things you just do not want to get loose. What I mean by bedding in your brakes is ride around and hold on the brakes. Not like tight to where you can barely move, but just have a little bit of pressure. You'll feel your brakes engaging. Ride around for about 5 to 20 seconds. You'll start feeling that they'll get warm after a little bit, let go about the same amount for cooling, and do that a few times, front and rear, and that's what we call bedding in the brakes. Now, if you do it too much, you'll notice, if you're staring at your rotor, you'll notice your rotor could literally do this. Doesn't matter what make, what model, rotors warp. Doesn't matter. Unless they're carbon ceramic brakes from a Lamborghini or any type of supercar, that's the only thing that doesn't necessarily warp. Any type of steel, metal, actual rotors will warp. And the smaller they are, the thinner they are, the less surface area that they have, it will happen. If you notice there's a little bit of a and you look at it and you notice, go grab a marker, make a mark where you see it do that. Go ride your bike around, bed in the brakes. I bet you it goes away. And then if it does come back, you'll notice that it'll be in probably a completely different position than where you made the mark on the rotor. It's a common thing. They make little tools for tweaking your rotors. That's mainly for like mountain bikes, thin discs. You will notice that they'll warp a lot easier because they're thinner metal, less surface area, where these are thick. Roughly 3 millimeters thick on these rotors. So I just wanted to go into all that to kind of explain, because we've ran into over the years a lot of people thinking that a little bit of a tiny bit of a rub is a problem. It's a common occurrence, especially during the winter time when it heats up and cools down very quickly. So if you live in a climate where it's very cold and you're riding, you'll find that your rotors warp way fast versus when you're in the summertime and they don't. Remember these? This bolt and this little square nut, this is where they came out of. Now you're gonna take your 3 millimeter Allen. We'll tighten it all up when I'm able to sit on it. Let's get this thing down and start fitting it to myself. Oh, wow. Okay. This is not as low as the pre-production one. Roll this forward and then get the bars. I'm gonna sit probably right here. I'm actually pretty impressed with the bar height, but I obviously need to go ride it and see. Also, when tightening your bars, you never want the clamps, unless they have a dot on them on one side or the other, you never want them to completely compress on one side. Trying to remember, I think the dot side, you'd have to look at them, but I think the ones that have a dot, that's where it clamps completely. You'll notice that one side will be thick and one side will be thin, and then the thin side is where you want the gap. On these, it's supposed to be gapped evenly on both sides. I'm gonna play with it forward, and then I may move it in a future video. I'll let you guys know what I like better. And since these have rubber clamps, you just wanna get them snug. Once you see that the part is bottomed out into each other, just give it a, that's it. That's not going anywhere. Make sure the side screws are tight as well. Let's make sure the button gets where it needs to be. That's a 3 millimeter. That's the one I just put the screw in. Phillips had to tighten the screw. And depending on the bike, sometimes I'll just make the clamp bottom out on one side on the brakes and then have a gap at the bottom. And on these, same thing. You don't need to go crazy, because if you go too hard and they're too stiff, if it does take a hit, you'd rather it move and then have to kind of like twist it back than it to just snap everything. And then this is the rim lock, 14 millimeter. This one just wasn't even snug, so I put a little baby dab of Loctite to keep it in place, and then I snugged it up to make sure it's secure. But the swing arm is way wider. Look at how much room is in there. There's almost an inch to the chain. And then we got an 8119. Don't lose your keys. We're gonna be able to offer them on the website. I'll see about offering the metal keys as replacement. There is a lock for your steering. One thing that is going to seem strange, but I need you guys to trust me on this, is this zip tie right here. You see it? It's actually on a plug into the frame. The best thing to do is you can either cut the zip tie right here, or you can actually just reach in right above. Don't cut it, but push down, and now you can see the zip tie is disconnected. So a big reason for this is applying a little too much tension, and somebody actually had some wires get pulled too tight and it caused an issue. You can back it out like that, and you can do two things. You can either remove it, put a regular zip tie on it, or you can loosen it so this doesn't tug. So I'm actually just gonna snip this end off so it just chills right here, and we'll be completely fine. But make sure you do that. And just like that, nice and clean. Look at that. Front wheel is a 70-119. I went ahead and zip tied both sides, the wires out of the way. Another improvement or line oriented thing is you could pivot this to the back, you could pivot it down so it kind of runs a little bit different, but you don't want it to have a high point. It's here, it does have a high point, it does go over the headlight. All right, well, there's nothing left to it but to do it. I'm just gonna look at everything, check all the bolts, because I don't care if you're Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, Altis, E-Ride Pro, doesn't matter. I always bolt check everything. I'm not gonna go through that with you guys and show you all the things. They did paint mark everything, so I'm just gonna visually look at things and grab things and pull on things and just make sure nothing's loose and that all the paint marks are still in the same spot. Just as I was walking over here to do this, the battery stopped. Perfect timing. I think you'll probably be waiting a little bit longer for the battery to charge, depending on its charge level. Let me show you how to put it back in here. Now, to get into the trunk, you'll notice this, you just push it and it falls down slightly. It has a push button, and you just flip it down and you see your little keyhole. And then to close it, you just push it all the way. You hear it click and you're good to go. Twist this out of the way. Go ahead and slide her on in. Man, that is nice and secure. Make sure our charging port's closed. All right, we got it nice and snug, plugged in. Look at the size of that shaft. I mean, don't clip that or anything, but it's huge. Compare that to another brand that uses an actual gearbox. I bet you won't see one that big. That should give you some confidence on 22 kilowatts. Probably wondering how you charge the battery while it's in the bike. It's easier just to open the seat. Actually reach in here and actually flick this off. Charging port's right there. So if we go ahead and close this, you want to plug it into the bike first and then into the wall. You're gonna want to make sure this notch is up, and then that will be where you slide it in. Just plug it in, then you plug it into the wall. Right below the A, you see the drain plug. That is where you go ahead and drain your gearbox. You do it at 600 miles and then again at 5,000 miles. And that little guy right there is where you fill it up. Another thing to point out, God forbid we ever have to do any type of warranty or anything, your motor number is actually right down there as well. Some people asked me, do you have to wait until you get to 5,000 miles? No, you don't. Changing your oil is never a bad thing. It takes anywhere from 0.1 to 0.17 liters. So it's barely anything. If you're in cold climate versus warm climate, because there is two different weights. But if you don't ride a ton, I would say, you know, if you're not even doing 1,000 miles a year, I would just change it every year. Right before the season, get it fresh. you can't hurt it. If you're riding a ton, if you're riding 5,000 miles in a year, then maybe do it twice a year, or just wait 5,000 miles. It's not very hard, it's super easy. And then your VIN/number plate is right there. Now earlier I mentioned we would talk about this button in here. If I press this button, watch the display. As you can see, that turns the bike on, bam. All right, and then it also turns the bike off. A big question I kept on seeing pop up on the forums was, oh, the NFC, you know, they don't like it, or what if they lose it? Where do I get another one? How do I turn the bike on? Just don't lose your main key, your actual physical key. This one right here, you won't have to worry about that because all you have to do is open up the seat, press the button, turns the bike on. So if you just want to go out for rides and you don't want to take your NFC key, then you do that. It is not accessible any other way. There's no way you're getting in here. If you lose that key, then you really won't have a way in to get to it. You're probably gonna have to start unbolting things, and it's gonna be a little bit of a pain. This is how you turn the bike on, and this is how you turn the bike off. Same thing with the red key. Another really cool thing they did, now you know if your kickstand's down. Now make sure you inflate your tires to 32 PSI when they're cold, or just go ahead and make sure they're inflated to the PSI you prefer to run with on the dirt. Now I know you guys right away are gonna go ride your bike and everything, but it is winter time as of filming this, and you're gonna probably have to let the bike sit for a couple days or a couple weeks or something of the sort. Go ahead and discharge this to anywhere from 40 to 60% and just leave it at that. And then when you come back, you will still have a charge. If you want to check what your charge is, just press the button and it'll show you your level here, or you can obviously turn it on the screen. If you go to turn your bike on with the NFC and nothing's happening, it's likely because your bike has been sitting dormant for 8 days or more, meaning you haven't turned it on, you haven't done anything, and it does that to save power. All you have to do is press either the M, the negative, or the positive button, and then you can use your key and it'll just wake right up. One thing I don't see people talking about is the reverse mode. So if I press the button, you'll see on the screen it gets an R at the very top there. And how am I doing that? There's this button right here, the R button. You're to press this and then twist the throttle. Now you're gonna want to get out of park, which is either pressing the yellow button, you get your noise and then it goes to the ready screen. Or if it's in park, you can press the brakes and it takes you out of park. So once you're out of park, you pull the trigger and then you give it a little bit of throttle. And you can obviously, I'm giving it full throttle, it's not doing much, which is great. You don't wanna go crazy fast in reverse. And then once you let go, you can go forward. That's eco mode. Let's go up. This is normal mode. One thing I would also advise is no matter what bike you own is balancing your wheels, because if you don't balance your wheels, you're gonna get a little shimmy and shake just because there's a tube inside of here and tires are not made evenly. You always wanna balance them. So I'm not gonna do this for very long. Let's just go all full race real quick. Now you have a USB-A here, which is to use to charge your phone or something that takes a decent amount of amps. You have a USB-C right here that you could use to charge devices that do not pull a lot of amps. Potentially a GoPro. I've plugged in a couple things that don't take too much and it charges it. That's your tail light. Turn the light position to 1. We got a running light. Oh wait, let's pull the brakes. You got a brake light, baby. Yes, sir. and then high beam, it doesn't change. It almost looks like you have two lights because of the reflection here. Something you could do if you wanted this to even be brighter, which I don't know if you really would want to, but you could put like a reflective tape or even white underneath here and it would make it even brighter. And then if you hit the brake lights, they still come on. You got brake lights, running lights. Now I know there's one guy, maybe 10 of you on your keyboard. Take the fairings off, take the fairings off. I want to see what it looks like with the fairings off. Okay, I got you. Let me show you how really quick. All right, there are 3 5mm Allens right here. And then it has a little nipple right there that goes into the frame. You do that on both sides. I'm just gonna show you one side because you're not gonna see the other side. Up top, there's these 2 screws. Remove those. Same thing, 5mm Allens. And then there's 1 and 2 screws. And then this bracket is still on here. If you want to remove this bracket, you're gonna need to take this plastic piece off and there's bolts behind that hold that on. If you're gonna be taking it on and off frequently, I would say leave it on. All right, and there you go. That's what it looks like without the fairings. And this is what it looks like with the fairings. What's your choice? How are you gonna ride it? Without or with? Drop it in the comments. I do not have anything to measure the weight properly, so I'm not gonna use a bathroom scale. It's just not gonna be super accurate because I'll be balancing it and stuff like that. There's plenty of videos out there that will go ahead and cover it. 2 things I wanna touch on really quick. One, people are talking about why isn't there a thumb regen? You know, they want regenerative braking. First thing, you must be used to a Sur-Ron that has really small brakes. These have pads on them that are dramatically larger. So as you can see in the photo that I'm putting right here, it's a big difference. And the pads are way thicker. So if you're worried about braking and you're worried that, oh, the bike is heavier than my Sur-Ron or something like that, for you guys worried about weight, go ride a dirt bike. Go ride a motorcycle with an actual engine in it. You'll notice that the weight doesn't really matter. If you're worried about if you drop it, can you pick it up? If the bike weighed 300 pounds, you could still pick it up. But drop in the comments why you're worried about weight and why you wanted a regen button. I went live with this on Instagram and talked with you guys, and realistically, it came down to the fact that, oh, you want better braking. Well, you have the better braking, trust me. Thick rotors, thick pads, larger pads, larger brakes, dissipates heat. This thing brakes great. So don't worry about how much it weighs, just ride it and have fun, because you will. All right, guys, don't forget we're doing a giveaway for an Altis Sigma. All you have to do is spend $1 on the store. You can obviously enter for free on the website, so make sure you get over there and do that. But the goal here was to make it very simple to understand what you needed to do to put the bike together. I don't think I missed out on anything. I made sure that I pointed out every little thing that could be something that you miss. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, I'm sure you guys already have, put comments down below, but go ahead and drop them below if you have not. I will be in the comment section making sure that I answer any of the questions. We have a bunch of videos on the way. I have a bike sitting to my right that I cannot show you yet, but that's coming up soon as well. On the next video we do with the Sigma, we're gonna go ahead and take it out, take it for a ride. I'll get you guys some cool beauty shots out in the open, show you some riding, and show you how quick it is. Maybe we'll do a draggy. Other than that, I thank you guys for coming to the channel and watching the video all the way through. If you came all the way to the end, drop a comment letting me know that. And if you're ever in the Vancouver area, make sure you swing by the shop and come and ride with us. Peace. Okay, video's not over, but I rode the bike. And I really think, gotcha. You have to watch that on the next video. Peace.